The sun was beginning to set, casting a soft gold glow through the wide kitchen windows. Evelyn Hart stood barefoot at the stove, stirring a pot of her husband's favorite pasta, creamy garlic chicken with spinach and sun-dried tomatoes. The scent was rich, warm, familiar. Her playlist hummed in the background, something jazzy and romantic, a quiet prelude to the conversation she had been rehearsing in her head all afternoon. She glanced at the table, 2 candles flickering softly, cloth napkins folded just so. A bottle of red wine breathing beside their wedding china. She smiled to herself. She had taken the time to do her hair, even put on mascara. At 48, Evelyn still held her grace, though she had started to embrace the gray in her curls and the softness in her frame. She didn't mind aging, she saw it as something earned. This night was important. Michael walked in just as she was setting the plates down. He looked tired, like always. Work had become his armor, his excuse, his world. His gray coat still clung to his shoulders, and his tie was askew, as if he'd barely made the effort that morning. He leaned in for a quick peck on her cheek but barely looked her in the eye. "Smells good," he muttered, already pulling out his phone and scrolling through something as he sat. Evelyn tucked her napkin onto her lap, still smiling. "I thought we could have a nice dinner, just the 2 of us." Michael nodded, distracted. "Yeah, sure. Thanks." She tried not to feel the sting of his indifference. He hadn't always been this way. There was a time when he would bring her wildflowers just because. A time when they would dance in the kitchen after midnight. But somewhere in the years of raising kids, and paying mortgages, and chasing careers, the intimacy faded. Still, Evelyn had never questioned their foundation. They were a team. Weren't they? She poured them both a glass of wine and took a deep breath. "I was thinking," she began, her voice bright with practiced enthusiasm, "that we should take a big trip. For our 25th anniversary next spring." Michael barely looked up. "I mean it," she said. "Italy? Tuscany? We could rent that old stone villa we talked about. Maybe even stay a few extra days and visit the Amalfi Coast. Just as finally. Like we always said we would." He blinked slowly, the way he did when he was trying to act interested but wasn't. "Yeah. Sounds nice." She frowned. "You don't seem excited." "I said it sounds nice," he replied, eyes still on his phone. "I just had a long day. The Thomason case is dragging again. And the market. Don't get me started." Evelyn put her fork down. "Mike. Look at me." He looked up, surprised by the firmness in her voice. "I know we've both been busy. The kids are gone now. The house is quiet. I thought maybe this could be our new chapter. Something to look forward to." He offered a weak smile. "Sure. Of course." But it wasn't real. She could see it in the way his jaw tensed, in how quickly he returned his gaze to the glowing screen in his hand. She leaned back, heart sinking. "You know, I used to picture us doing all the things we said we would. Traveling. Waking up late. Sitting in cafes in strange cities, laughing about everything we survived." Michael was quiet. Uncomfortably so. She reached for her wine. "I want us to be happy again." "We are happy," he said quickly, too quickly. "Are we?" He hesitated, then stood up and stretched. "Let's talk about it later, okay? I'm beat." And just like that, the moment was gone. She sat there long after he had gone upstairs, the candles burning low, the food cold. She thought of the young man he used to be, the one who drove hours in the rain just to kiss her goodnight, who carved their initials into a tree trunk in Oregon during their honeymoon. Where had he gone? Her phone buzzed with a text from Julia, their daughter. "Hey, Mom. Don't forget to water my plants while I'm gone. Love you." She smiled at the message, but it didn't touch the ache in her chest. She looked around the kitchen, this beautiful space she had poured herself into for so many years, wallpaper she chose, countertops she scrubbed. Pictures of their children clipped to the fridge with magnets from their road trips. Everything looked the same. But something had shifted. And somewhere, deep in the hollow silence of that candlelit room, Evelyn began to sense that her future, this future she had imagined, this life she had devoted herself to, was not as secure as she once believed. 3 weeks after that dinner, Evelyn found out the truth. She had gone to the garage to grab Michael's laptop, their shared one, only to find messages open on the screen. There was no password. He never thought to hide it. The messages weren't from a colleague or an old friend. They were from her. Lila, his high school sweetheart. The woman she had once heard about in passing during a dinner party story. Nothing more than a name from the past. Until now. Nico can't wait to see you tomorrow. He's been asking all day. I know it's hard keeping this quiet, but soon it'll just be us. Like we always dreamed. He's out of the house now. Time to come home. The child's name made her hands shake. Nico? Michael had a son? 7 years old. Evelyn did the math. That meant her husband had been living 2 lives for at least 8 years. A slow numbness spread through her fingers, her arms, her chest. Her heart pounded like a drum inside her skull. This wasn't possible. It had to be a mistake. But it wasn't. The truth unfolded quickly, one piece, then another. She found hotel receipts tucked in his briefcase. Notes scribbled in a woman's handwriting on torn envelopes. A necklace she had never seen before hidden in the glove box of his car. She confronted him 3 nights later. He had just walked in from work, loosening his tie, when she met him at the door. White with fury, her hands trembling. "Who is Lila?" she asked, her voice shaking. He stopped. "What? Don't lie to me." His shoulders fell. And then, just like that, he didn't lie. He didn't fight. He just looked down at the floor and gave a soft, defeated sigh. "She's someone I've known a long time." Evelyn's mouth went dry. "How long?" Michael looked up, and for the first time in years, she saw him honestly. Not her husband. Not the man she'd shared a life with. But a stranger. "Since high school," he said. "We reconnected 10 years ago." "Evelyn, I didn't plan for it to happen this way." She slapped him. Not hard. But hard enough to make her hands sting and her eyes blur with tears. "You have a child, Michael." He nodded. "How long?" she repeated, voice low and broken. "How long have you been living 2 lives?" He didn't answer. "You were just waiting, weren't you? For the kids to leave. For me to be out of the picture. You, coward. You let me plan trips. Buy wine. Light candles like an idiot. All while you were raising another family behind my back. Evelyn. I didn't mean to hurt you." She laughed bitterly. "You built a life without me. You watched me plan our future while you were making memories with her. And you didn't even have the decency to lie well." He looked away, ashamed. "I thought it would be easier this way." Her voice cracked. Easier for who? The next weeks moved like a blur. She filed for divorce. He kept the better lawyer. Of course he did. But what's worse was the fallout with their children. She expected comfort. Loyalty. Outrage. Instead, she got blank stares and uncomfortable silences. "Mom, maybe we can all just move on," Julia said gently one afternoon. "Dad's happy. Maybe you should try to be, too." Evelyn blinked in disbelief. He lied to us. To all of us. For years. "How are you not furious?" "Because he's still my dad," said their son, Mark. "And honestly, Lila's not so bad. We had dinner with them last weekend. She's really kind." "You what?" Mark flinched. "We didn't want to tell you." "You get so upset." Evelyn stood, the world tilting beneath her. "You've already chosen? Don't make us pick sides, Mom." But they already had. It was like a second betrayal. Perhaps worse than the first. Her family was suddenly someone else's. Her children saw her grief as drama. Her pain as bitterness. She became the problem. The difficult one. The woman who couldn't just let it go. When the wedding happened, she wasn't told. She found out 2 weeks later, from a distant cousin on Facebook. Michael had married Lila in a rustic barn outside Portland. Her children stood in matching suits and dresses, smiling wide beneath a floral arch. Julia caught the bouquet. Mark toasted the couple. The boy, his son, stood between them all, beaming. They looked like a family. Her family. She sat for hours in the dark, staring at those photos, until her legs went numb. Her heart felt like it had caved in on itself. The next day, she sold what little she had left. She packed a suitcase, emptied the joint bank account he forgot to lock her out of, and disappeared. No goodbyes. No forwarding address. Just a single message she sent to both kids. Take care of yourselves. You know where I am if you ever truly need me. But I need to go now. I need to remember who I was before I gave everything away. Mom. Then she was gone. She kept her destination a secret, slipping away without a word to anyone. The truth is, she didn't have a clue where she was headed either. Evelyn drove west until the road stopped making sense and her cell phone dropped signal. Somewhere between Wyoming and Montana, her tears dried up. Not because she wasn't hurting anymore, but because there was nothing left inside to pour out. She stopped in a small town nestled at the foot of pine-covered mountains, a place with a single blinking streetlight and a post office that doubled as a grocery store. The kind of place no one looked twice at a woman traveling alone with an old suitcase and hollow eyes. She rented a one-bedroom cabin with crooked floorboards and a leaky faucet. The landlord was a soft-spoken woman named June who didn't ask questions and accepted cash. The place smelled like cedar and dust. Evelyn unpacked her life into its tiny drawers and let the silence swallow her. There was no internet. No TV. She left her phone off most days. The first week, she did nothing. She slept. Ate canned soup. Sat on the front porch and stared into the trees, watching birds dart across the sky like tiny messengers of a world she no longer belonged to. Sometimes she wept without warning. Once, she screamed into the forest until her throat gave out. She kept hearing their voices. Just forgive him, Mom. We don't want to pick sides. She's not that bad. You're making things harder than they need to be. She clenched her fists until her nails dug crescent moons into her palms. Then she breathed. Again. And again. On the 11th day, she opened her laptop. Dust floated in the slanted sunlight as she wiped the screen clean with her sleeve. She stared at the blank document. She had nothing to write. Not yet. She'd always freelanced a little, copywriting, product descriptions, blog blurbs. But that was when she had the luxury of stability. Now, her fingertips hovered over the keys, and all she could think about was how her life had become someone else's story. Still, rent needed to be paid. She signed back onto a content platform she hadn't used in years. She pitched 5 articles. 3 were accepted. She earned $58 that week. It was barely enough for groceries, but it was something. Each day became a ritual. Wake up. Walk to the cafe with the spotty Wi-Fi. Answer emails. Write. Take the long route home, even if it meant her knees ached by sundown. Sit on the porch. Listen to the wind. One evening, June, her landlord, knocked on the door holding a basket of wild blueberries. They're good with yogurt, June said, her gray braid swinging behind her shoulder. Figured you might like something fresh. Evelyn blinked back tears at the small kindness. Thank you. You're new to running from something? June asked gently. Evelyn hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Me too. 20 years ago. I've been running slower ever since. They shared a quiet laugh. From then on, Evelyn began to see glimpses of herself in the world around her. In the broken fence behind the cafe. In the old dog that limped through town every morning. In the woman who still had nights she couldn't sleep, and mornings where she didn't think she could get up, but did. She kept writing. One post led to another. A wellness blog asked her to write about healing. She laughed when she read the request. But she wrote it anyway. Healing isn't clean or pretty. Sometimes it's bitter and raw. Sometimes healing looks like screaming into your steering wheel in the middle of nowhere or eating toast for 3 days because that's all you can manage. But healing isn't linear. It's not a checklist. It's a decision to stay. To keep breathing. Even when it hurts. That post went viral. Messages flooded in from strangers who saw themselves in her words. Women in their 40s, 50s, 60s who were betrayed, broken but still breathing. One wrote, "I thought I was the only one." Evelyn sat in the cafe and cried for 10 minutes after reading that message. The barista quietly slid her a tea and didn't charge her for it. Something was changing. It had been nearly a year since Evelyn disappeared. She lived quietly, writing under a pen name, walking the wooded trails each morning. Her story, though untold to the world in full, unfolded piece by piece in her essays and blog entries. Women reached out to say they saw themselves in her words. Some whispered thank yous through screens. Others wept through paragraphs that felt like home. Still, nothing could fully fill the hollow space where her children used to be. Then, one chilly October morning, her inbox pinged with an unfamiliar name. Subject, "Mom, can we talk?" It was Julia. "Hi, Mom. I'm not sure how to say this, but I owe you an apology. Lila cheated on Dad. We found out last month. It's been awful." She left. "He's drinking, he's depressed, and he keeps saying he made the worst mistake of his life. You were right, and we were blind. I'm sorry for the way we treated you. I miss you. Love, Julia." Evelyn stared at the screen for a long time. Her fingers hovered over the keys. Then finally, "Thank you for telling me. I'm still healing. But yes, we'll talk." She sent the reply and stepped outside. The air was crisp, pine-scented. She could feel a shift, like the air itself had turned a page. The next message came from Mark. "Mom, I don't even know what to say. I've never felt so ashamed. We abandoned you and believed a lie." She was cold and manipulative. The sweet act didn't last. Dad's been living in regret, and to be honest, he's getting exactly what he gave. "Please let me call you. I just want to hear your voice." They spoke the next morning. When Evelyn heard her son's voice, shaky, remorseful, she had to steady herself on the kitchen counter. "I missed you," he said, choking back tears. "You didn't deserve any of it." "I know," she said. "But I needed to disappear. I didn't know who I was anymore." "We didn't either," Mark whispered. "But I'm starting to remember now. I remember how safe I felt when you tucked me in. How warm our home was when you were the center of it." In December, Julia and Mark came to visit. They arrived with sheepish smiles and nervous hugs. They brought groceries and books, and one night, Julia cried into Evelyn's shoulder while apologizing over and over again. "I thought she was perfect," Julia said. "But she said such nasty things behind your back. I think we wanted her to be good so badly, we ignored the truth." Evelyn didn't say much. There was no need. Her silence was steady, loving. She had become a woman of still waters and firm boundaries. They stayed for 4 days, helping chop wood, paint the porch, and cook warm meals in the tiny kitchen. At night, they sat around the fire, sometimes in silence, sometimes laughing over memories that had once felt lost forever. On the final morning, Julia said, "Will you come visit us sometime?" Evelyn smiled softly. "Maybe. But for now, this is where I need to be. By spring, Evelyn's blog had drawn thousands of readers. A publisher offered her a modest deal to expand her essays into a memoir. She called it Everything I Had to Leave. The book was honest, poetic, sharp with betrayal and soft with healing. She didn't name names. She didn't lash out. She simply told the truth and let it echo. The memoir became a quiet success, passed from hand to hand among women who had lived some version of her story. And in that, Evelyn felt something she hadn't in a long time. Purpose. 2 years later, Evelyn stood on the edge of a rocky overlook near her cabin, watching the first snowfall of the season dust the treetops. Her hair was longer now, streaked silver. Her eyes, once tired, were bright, alive. Behind her, the sound of soft footsteps on gravel. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice. She turned. It was Matthew, the carpenter who had helped her fix the roof last fall. He had kind eyes, the quiet patience of someone who had lost things too. They had grown close slowly, cups of tea on the porch, shared stories in the firelight. "It is," she said. "Even after all this time, it still surprises me." He smiled. "You look at peace." "I am," she said. "Not healed completely. Not the same as before. But standing here, surrounded by stillness, by trees that kept growing no matter what was cut away, she had found a life worth living. A quieter one. Her own. And that was more than enough.